UN Big Brother re-colonising the world. The United Nations, with its vast power and reach, is the platform for apex globalists to impose their will on sovereign nations. Is this what Orwell was warning us about? Is the UN Big Brother? The hidden hand re-colonising the world. Neo-feudalism is a concept that has gained traction in recent years to describe a system where a small, privileged group holds authority and control, reminiscent of the feudal systems of the past. The identity of the most affluent people in the world is largely kept hidden. It is thought that these privileged groups had lost their fortunes in the rough times of the 1870s, World War I, and the 1920s, but in reality, they had managed to protect their fortunes by concealing them in tax havens. Hiding behind an island veil of anonymity, the world's wealthiest individuals are shrouded in secrecy. Yet they have managed to manipulate world affairs while dodging exposure. This has resulted in the imminent UN threat of a worldwide neo-feudal system. To replace sovereign nations, where the select few have control over everyone and everything. When they own everything, they'll be happy. Tax havens provide a discreet way for the worst criminals to hide their wealth and proceeds of crime. This is aiding crime, money laundering, drug, child, human, and arms trafficking. Furthermore, it is difficult to identify who is utilizing tax havens, as many countries, such as the Cayman Islands, have secrecy laws in place. This means that it is virtually impossible to track down those who are using tax havens to hide their wealth, leading to a culture of impunity, allowing wealthy criminals to escape justice. As a result, many argue that more needs to be done to ensure that tax havens are not abused in order to protect the public from those who seek to use them for illegal purpose. Re-colonising using dark money. The massive amount of dark money located in British-controlled tax havens is staggering, with some estimates suggesting that up to $50 trillion of assets are hidden away in these offshore financial centres. It is clear that Great Britain is taking a leading role in the global dark money banking industry. An example of hiding wealth is in comparing Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, with an estimated wealth of $131 billion with the British royal family, who have claimed joint wealth of only $28 billion. Despite their part in the colonization and development of the world over the past 500 years. Now this $50 trillion in dark money is being used to recolonize the world. Globalism born in Victorian England is the foundation of globalism today. Now globalism is used as a device to recolonize the world. Recolonizing ISMS, ideological subversion, to destroy the middle class. Tax havens fund an agenda to recolonize the world and destroy their enemy, the middle-class bourgeoisie, independent people, business owners and farmers. Tax haven dark money funds ideological subversion, socialism, communism, Nazism, environmentalism, etc. Richard Poe, 30-year-plus investigator and New York Times best-selling author, offers a detailed analysis of recorded facts examining the relationship between the British, Karl Marx, Leon Trotsky, MI6, and the Russian Revolution. He proves that the British were the driving force behind the emergence of communism, and that the Great Reset is in fact a ploy by the old landowning aristocracy to destroy the middle-class civilization. Hence why the ISM, environmental ideological subversion, is obsessed with the deindustrialization of the world. As a means to reverse the independence and standard of life improvements derived from industrialization. It is clear that tax havens are funding these ISM movements, including George Soros's Quantum Fund, located in a tax haven responsible for bankrolling the global Black Lives Matter movement. The 40,000+ militant not-for-profit organizations are part of the United Nations system that supports the globalist Soros-led forever wars. To support his claims, Poe offers evidence of more than 30 years of research into Soros activities, proving that the financier is working for the British as a front man, a cut-out villain to hide their involvement. Recolonizing by removing private property rights. One major factor between the First and Third World is individual property rights. Recolonizing the developed world using indigenous collective rights, apex globalists created to destroy our independence with the erosion of our private property rights. This is seen with Julian Huxley, Prince Philip, and ex-Nazi Prince Bernhard as the driving force behind the creation of the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, and the Australian Conservation Foundation. They have used these sister organisations as a device to bring in communal, indigenous, land title in both Australia and Brazil. Apex globalists were also at the forefront of the indigenous, communal native title system. The first test run of the indigenous principle we see today through communal ownership of land under native title, which is provided to indigenous owners in name only. Native title was first trialled in Kenya with British intelligence operatives working on a fake post-war liberation, seeing African nations given independence in name only, with the British globalists controlling their raw materials and funds. These apex globalists forced asset-rich African nations into debt slavery using the United Nations, IMF, and World Bank loans. They've allowed millions to starve to death, just like the British did to the Irish in the 18th century and seen in dozens of other colonies, including India. Experts estimate that within 10 years by 2030, up to 80% of the Australian land mass will be under native title, a collective property title system designed by the United Nations, not the Australian people. The terrifying prescience of George Orwell's 1984. It is worth noting Orwell is the contemporary of Julian Huxley and George Bernard Shaw of the British Eugenic Society, who are the forefathers of the Green political movement which rebranded from the British Eugenic Society after WW2. George Orwell was very troubled by the spread of authoritarian governments and the diminishing of individual liberties. His personal involvement in the Spanish Civil War and his observations of Stalin's Soviet Union had a big impact on his conception of a dark and oppressive future. Orwell had an opinion that certain international plans were aimed to form a world order based on the complete control of governments over their citizens by suppressing individualism, secrecy, and freedom of expression. In 1984, he portrayed a grim, frightening world in which a powerful and all-seeing government, known as Big Brother, today the United Nations, had complete oversight of people's lives through constant surveillance and brainwashing. The novel is a warning about the dangers of unrestrained governmental power and the manipulation of the truth. Apex globalists control Big Brother UN to recolonize the world. Orwell's prescient novel 1984 highlighted his fears of oppressive world governments, particularly British socialism, which he termed INCSOC. Their ideology is oligarchical collectivism. The concept of globalism was born in Victorian England and later popularized by the British Fabian socialists. It has since become the dominant belief system of the contemporary world. The Fabian Society is a British socialist organization that works to spread socialist ideals throughout the world. The Socialist International was founded by the British Fabian Society in 1951 and was a major proponent of globalism. It worked to coordinate the global socialist movement and sought to create a unified world government using the United Nations as the vehicle to achieve this goal. The Australian Greens also promote global governance, and Australians are paying for the UN system without having any say in how it operates. The Australian government has signed many UN treaties, giving the UN more power over the country. The UN system encompasses a wide range of organizations, funds and programs, such as the World Health Organization, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. This has allowed the UN to become an increasingly powerful entity and has enabled the socialists to influence the policies of governments around the world. This globalism has been met with criticism by some, who fear that it will lead to an erosion of national sovereignty and the creation of global governance. Apex globalist-owned corporations Rio Tinto, BHP and Wesfarmers are supporting the Uluru Voice Con, a move that is clearly intended to divide Australian people and exploit them to advance the UN's sinister agenda of digital enslavement. The UN's plan to build smart cities and use technology to digitally enslave humanity is a worrying development. As part of this, they are using the globalist-created indigenous movement to gain control of people, land, resources and wealth, which has always been part of the UN's Agenda 21 Agenda 2030 plan. This will lead to the destruction of farmers and the Australian economy, leaving the country in a third world state. It is clear that the UN wants to control human life and decide who gets to live and breed, and this plan was set in motion in 2016 when Malcolm Turnbull signed up for UN Smart Cities. His fellow international socialist Julian Huxley, who was once the president of the British Eugenic Society and the founder of the UN's Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, further solidified the UN's agenda. This has been compounded by the Dukan parliamentary inquiry, which is based on lies and is rolling out UNESCO law tyranny disguised as the protection of Aboriginal cultural heritage. Australians need to take control and make laws for themselves. UN has been attempting to stifle the voice of the people. Pre-planned disasters for recolonization. Bill Clinton's UN Build Back Better scam, the Sendai framework, was triggered by COVID. With British royal backing, EcoHealth Alliance created a disaster to trigger the United Nations Build Back Better, worldwide lockstep framework scam. As an international device to suspend democracies to destroy the middle class, our country and our independence. This pandemic is beneficial to international corporations with funds in tax havens, while local businesses have been ruined. The UN billionaires have also doubled their wealth due to the pandemic. The Bill Clinton UN's Build Back Better Sendai framework was put into Australian law and into a 2015 policy framework that has been exploiting COVID-19 in order to control us, conning us to believe that they are protecting us while they are actually taking away our rights. In Australia, the Liberal National Coalition began plans for the UN Build Back Better framework in 2015 to unify all levels of government, unions, and corporations under a single approach to suspend democracy. Divide and rule. This brings to mind George Orwell's dystopian works, which address the potential consequences of globalist plans and the need to protect individual freedoms from unchecked state power. Through his writings, Orwell highlights how oppressive systems, regardless of their origin, pose a threat to our rights and autonomy. Orwell's work is a timely warning not to fall for their manipulation. Instead, we must unveil the betrayal to expose the hidden apex globalists, the handlers of the big lie media, and our compromised political class of useful idiots, who gave our sovereignty away piece by piece to the United Nations Big Brother system.